Hello, I'm in the art room again today. I am here to talk about... I want to talk about monetization because it's something that I've been doing for a while in different degrees and in different levels of effectiveness. Something that I've been doing for a while, something that I've considered for a long time, and people often... There's a lot of talk around monetization, especially around your hobbies, because we live in a world where a lot of folks feel inclined to monetize simply because we live in a gig economy. So in lieu of proper wages, we work multiple jobs and we have side businesses, and we've kind of normalized this like a way of supplementing our income. And on top of that, there's also the other side of it where there's people who hope to make it their livelihood, or there's people who don't take it that seriously and they're like, well, I'll make a quick buck, no problem. It's not, everyone has a different experience with monetization, but I want to talk about it because some people are really, really against monetizing your hobbies. If we're viewing it with a bit more nuance, it can be complicated, and monetizing your hobbies is not always A, ideal, and B, like, preferable. I think that maybe apprehension towards monetization is actually usually stemming from kind of critique of, like I said, the fact that people shouldn't have to, monetize the things that they love. And there's my dog. The fact that we shouldn't have to doesn't mean you shouldn't, but it also, it can give us the opportunity to kind of say like, hey, what's the deal? Why are we not getting paid enough? But also, we can create for the sake of creating. There doesn't always have to be this kind of extrinsic reward. So I think that's where a lot of that kind of apprehension comes from, or maybe that critique. And I don't think it's necessarily like that the act of monetizing your work is negative. I think it's just that, especially in the age of TikTok, and I am no better for this, by the way, but, we've decided that we can monetize our lives as content and sell more and more and more of ourselves, especially our personal selves, to the internet. It's the way things are, unfortunately. Not unfortunately, but some people make, honest incomes this way. But the point is, I think a lot of criticism comes from maybe that more capitalistic side, and we can talk more about that in another video if that's something you guys are interested in. But yeah, I think that is kind of where that comes from. But this video is a little bit more about monetization, and if it's whether or not it's something that you want to do, and if it's something that you want to do, things to consider as someone who does it. So yeah, number one, you wanna consider if you want to monetize. It's important that to note that it's complicated. Monetizing your passions is complicated. And I don't mean because it's difficult to make sales, which it is to me, but because when you aim to make money out of something that you love, definitions of success and markers of these kind of like, how well are you doing? Again, markers of success, I suppose. And impatience can influence your self-image. It can influence your motivations and your creative output, especially if we're struggling with navigating kind of these boundaries and setting what this means for you, how you'll maintain positive self-image, revitalizing motivations and creative output that feels natural. These are all things that need to be considered as you're going into monetization, just because it's tough. It's really tough to say like, oh, this is something I love to do. I'm very passionate about this, but I need to make money. So how do I do that? If you've decided that you want to monetize, evaluate your life. This can also be like preemptively. It should probably be preemptively, but evaluate your life. What does your day-to-day look like? Do you have time to do this? Do you have time to do this? Because whatever time or whatever input you do, like, things change, life is flexible and all these things, but you need to have the capacity to potentially take on more. First of all, you're taking on more, but then take on more than the more. So how much time do you have? How much time do you expect to have going forward? What do you want your day-to-day to look like? Like, if you only have 10 minutes free time right now and you're struggling to balance rest and whatever, maybe it's not the time. Doesn't mean it won't be the time forever. Like, you'll have, whatever. The point is or you can evaluate your capacity in this way and make it more feasible for you. So if it's something where you're like, oh, I want to monetize, but like kind of like minimally, You can do things like affiliate marketing, which are super, super low stakes, and very, very easy to do, not difficult in the slightest, and it's really passive. It's more whether people engage with your stuff, and then through that you can make a couple pennies. Yeah, so the other thing about evaluating your life is you need to also evaluate your ambition, where are they coming from, and also your expectations. So you need to recognize that these things can take time. They can happen overnight. I'm not a cynic. They can happen overnight, but also let's be realistic in terms of if we're talking about sustainability, do you have the capacity to do this potentially for years before something comes up? What degree of investment can you make without sacrificing your well-being financially and otherwise? And yeah, just managing your expectations is really important, and also just really grounding yourself throughout the process. And it's important to consider money when you're doing monetization, but it's really important to remain authentic, because authenticity also sells. I'll say it does. People want you, not what you think that they want to see. So yeah, so now let's say you've decided you want to monetize. Now what? Well, I guess the question would be, what are you monetizing? Are you monetizing products, services? Is it digital work? Knowing what you are selling helps you figure out what digital platforms are effective for you to sell. So do you want to it makes it easier for you to sort out logistics, such as shipping, selling platforms, marketing techniques, etc. You also need to ask yourself again about your budget. You need to you can really start monetizing at any level of budget, $0. Social media is free for the most part, minus your soul. Just kidding. Okay. Yeah, but you can, knowing what you can spare, because anything that's an investment, you don't really know your ROI, right? You don't really know if you're going to get the return that you're looking for. So anything that you invest, be prepared to lose. And I'm not saying that you will. I promise you, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that it might be a while before you see that return, and money's only real for 30 business days for me. If it takes 5 years for you to get that return, it takes 5 years, but you have to be willing to have lost that money for the meantime, and potentially forever. You don't know. And that's okay. It's just recognizing the level of risk and recognizing what you're willing to put in. So now, let's say you've started to monetize and you are looking to maybe expand. And I think expanding through multiple monetization is really important. You want to diversify what you're selling. So monetizing doesn't have to be the hobby itself. It could be through media like Instagram or TikTok, like I said, kind of like affiliate marketing or brand partnerships and things like that. You could do YouTube and Patreon. That's all. YouTube, at least in Canada, is the only platform, one of the only platforms that you can really make some money through viewership and things like that. Patreon and Substack being membership-based services. So if you're willing to share content through there, specific subscription levels, you can do it that way. And these have minimal fees for the most part, usually as you sell, especially for Patreon and Substack. I think it's just a rate, and they require little upfront costs. So that's a good way. It doesn't have to necessarily be the hobby itself. It can be things like that, where you're sharing inside stuff, blah, 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 blah. You can also do different products. So when I first started monetizing, I did prints, and then I did totes, and then I did stickers, and then I did tapestries. And that was really helpful, because it's also considering different buyers, right? Different people have different amounts of money. Some people wanted to buy an expensive tapestry. Some people didn't. They wanted to have a sticker because it was significantly less expensive. Fair enough. Big part of this is recognizing your workload. How much time will it take for you to do these things? It was much easier once upon a time to do my stickers and order 500 up front and then never look at them again and just sell them, and that was great. But do you have enough time, energy, and resources to have multiple streams? I've struggled in the past with restocks. Restocks can be tough because it is cheaper to buy in bulk. Don't always have the people to buy the bulk. And you don't always have, even if you do have X amount of people, maybe over time, over a year, that will buy all that stock back, and maybe you can't afford that front. That was a big thing for a lot of my merch, minus prints, required higher quantities and required, maybe $1,000 bill. And I'm like, oh, fuck, I don't have that. And, you either have to save up or you just reconsider and pivot and make your way up there. It's not impossible. It just might take time. So yeah, like I said, diversifying your products allows people to find themselves in a work that makes sense for them. It doesn't, you're not saying, here is one thing and expecting everyone to go for it. There are different types of people out there, there are different types of budgets, and there are different needs that are being met, and sometimes it's one thing, sometimes it's the other, and you can't guess. So diversifying can be really, really helpful, and it's served me well, at least in terms of like tangible products such as stickers, prints, tapestries, totes. Having those options, people do really, they have different things that they're looking for, especially in terms of your designs. So it's also to be said of commissions. So I've only done a handful of like painting commissions actually. Most of my commissions have been digital and offering things like logos, album covers. I do like birth chart portraits. I do like people's pets. I do whatever, different projects, and tattoo designs. Like essentially, like I make myself available and I have these doors open for the folks that need it. Now let's talk about two really bad words: social and media. Yeah, so social media is a really contested area for creatives. We know this because it really does complicate our ability to create authentically, in terms of like authentic creation paired with mass presentation. And yeah, also many people note like the really disheartening fight against the algorithm, and they find themselves equating their views and engagement with skill. And I've been there, and sometimes you just end up in the algo prison, baby. That's it. It's not personal. It's not about your skill. It's unfortunately a very, very intelligent algorithm that if the first 15 people or whatever don't engage with what you're looking for, they don't push it to more. And you just have to be lucky about who the first 15 is. If the first 15 are people that really like your stuff and they're heavily engaging with it, or they're viewing it and they're interacting and all these things, you might get pushed further and further and further. But it's all about those first viewers. I know TikTok, for example, shows your stuff to like 300, and if it doesn't get past the 300, then you probably had a lower engagement rate. Anyways, it can be really disheartening because it's all learning, right? Like I've been doing this for years. I've only kind of figured it out a little bit recently, and I just got lucky with a video or two. And it's really important to say that going viral, talk about this because everyone wants to go viral, especially creators who are looking to monetize entirely. They want to work full time. They want to do these things for themselves as a career. And going viral is a really, really effective way to build a fast following. Going viral is opportunity and luck, nothing else. It is not skill. It is not, well, give yourself some credit. It's skill. It does take skill. It does take, video editing or whatever you're showing. It takes that, but it really just takes the gumption and the desire to kind of like send that lottery ticket into the algo and see if it is picked up. Sometimes it is. So yeah, it's opportunity and luck, and you're making sure that you're giving yourself the chance to get lucky. Post your bad shit. One of I think my most viral video that I've ever posted, I look horrible in it. What the hell? I posted it because I was like getting like 150 views on my videos. I was like, no one's even gonna see it. It's fucked. But I've reposted it since because I'm like, I don't give a fuck how I look. It's like people clearly like the video and whatever. Anyways, if I didn't give myself the opportunity because I was like, you look like shit, then I would probably not have amassed several thousand followers because from that video alone, right? That said, on the note of reposting, if we're going to talk about monetization, especially through building a platform for yourself online, post, repost. I repost all my content. I don't have the luxury of creating, and no one wants to, creating content regularly and burning themselves out creating content, and also just like creating for the fact of social media. And like, you can feed the social media beast without burning yourself out creatively. I do so by I paint and make 3 videos per painting, maybe 4 or 5 on the higher end per video or per painting, and then those get recycled. They get reused. I can rejig them if I have time, but in reality I am constantly reposting old content. I'm learning from what folks like, because the way that these social media platforms work is they often show you your stuff to new viewers anyways. So your risk of like saturating people's feeds with shit they've seen 100 times is a little bit lower than you think. Most of like my content is showed to like 92% new people. So I'm like, cool. Sorry, 8%, you've seen this video 4 times before, but here you go with a different song, and that is fine, but it's also a way of like preserving my abilities to continue what I'm doing without like requiring constant output, and still like kind of appeasing the regularity that the algorithm can call for. No one likes this one. And I talked to Robin about this, I think when she was here for our video, and we talked about getting comfortable behind the camera and how it's awful. And it took me a long time to bring myself to YouTube, first of all. I still don't really do it too much on like my other forms of media. Show yourself. People want to see you. They want to know who's the genius behind what you do. What, you know, you are an integral part of the process. You're the reason that things are the way that they are. If you want to monetize, people want to know who they're supporting. Yeah, they want to know the mind. The final note that I'll make about social media is less about you and more about others, and it's about finding opportunities and using social media to connect with bodies that promote things like opportunities, contests, magazines, calls for artists, calls for writers, workshops, community events, online meetups, in-person meetups, using hashtags to find people in your area, using this kind of like very, very valuable social platform to be social and to get connected with the rest of your community and the opportunities that are available to you that you might not otherwise find by Google search, or just might not even know what to look for if you're doing Google. I said final thing about social media. I'm not done. In the age of the internet, you gotta get connected. That's all. What can I say? Get connected. Here's a tip that I love to do, especially if I've had a drink with me. DM people. You want to say, hey, your stuff is cool. Be my friend. It works sometimes, not always, but put yourself out there. It works. Don't be weird about it though, guys. Don't be weird. Do it in a totally like normal, nonchalant, and not at all relentless way. Don't be a freak. There's someone who calls me on Instagram 4 or 5 times a day. Don't be that guy. Comment on what they do. It makes people feel better when they, if you like what they do, be honest and express that affinity for their work. And that's a form of giving them feedback and saying like, I like what you do, keep going. And as someone who, when I get those messages, I am like, first of all, falling deeply in love with the person who sent it. Second of all, it genuinely makes me feel good. And I'm like, thank you for taking the time out of your day to message me and say you like what I do. It reminds me of what I like beyond my own selfish reasons for doing what I do. It reminds me of the human aspect of art and why we've done it for so long, and why writing and art and creation are such incredible avenues for connection, because we're sharing things that connect us to one another. So use it and DM. Use it to find your community in a way that you can learn and grow. I had an account before that was a plant account. I no longer use it, but it still exists. And I found a bunch of people online and I was like, oh my god, we're friends, and we talk about plants and we have plant collections. And I still have some of those people now on my new account who I've met through that, and maybe haven't even met in person, just like found them years and years ago when I was looking for community in that area. And now I've made friends in this community, and I hope to continue to make friends in this community and learn and grow from these folks. But yeah, so when you're in the age of the internet, also remember access. So consider like what you're willing to have for free, because the internet's great. Like I get to show my art to people who maybe like it's in my fucking house. You're not coming to see that. No way. Unless you're that freaky guy who calls me 5 times a day, then maybe you're in my walls. Share, because people maybe wouldn't otherwise see it. So remember that access is a tricky thing for the arts, and we've leveled the playing field just a little bit with the internet. And yeah, so consider what you're willing to get away for free, and consider what is worth something to you. So like, I don't mind sharing my process. I'm doing it anyways. Would I give my painting away for free? Probably not. But that's not because I don't want to, but it's because it's personal to me, and you'd probably have to pry from my cold dead hands. And that's totally normal, not at all anxious attachment. to a material object. Okay, a couple more things. Let's talk about the journey, because this one is something that like I really still struggle with. But we're gonna start with the beginning. So start small, as I said. Even if your budget is $1 million, fucking lucky you. But if your budget is $1 million, don't spend it all in one place. Start small. We get ahead of ourselves often, and like I think about being 19 and like please wanting what I wanted, and if that ever happened to me, I would be first of all, nothing I engaged with when I was 19 should be apparent in my life anymore. But the things that I was praying for, hoping for, and really like working towards manifesting in my life are things that I no longer really want anyways. So like thank fucking God it didn't happen. So start small. Don't get ahead of yourself. Don't jump the gun. You are able to, with what you have, go from there. Build upon itself. Everything snowballs anyways. And embrace your process. Because that's a part of it, is just like, you don't just like out the gate, you never, maybe some lucky ducks out there, do one thing and then boom, they're exactly where they need to be. But often there's this process that you have to kind of become comfortable with, and that involves preparing for your ebbs and flows. I've had really good times as a creator monetizing, and I've had really bad times. I'm really easy for like it's over. That's it, folks. It's over. But everything's in a cycle. That's how it works. That's why we have seasons to remind us of that. That said, remember your context. So for example, right now is a horrible time to be a creator. It's a horrible time to be a small business. People don't have money. The world is not doing great. We're entering a recession. I believe we've already been in one. Things are expensive, and don't say that like your shit's bad, no one's buying it. When people just can't afford groceries, and it's just like an unfortunate time in the world. Late stage capitalism is a malignant thing on our planet, and it kills art. Yeah, celebrate any and all wins, because after our really fun and uplifting conversation, celebrate yourself. Buy yourself a cupcake. Reward yourself with a day off, many days off. Reward yourself. Give yourself a pat on the back. Celebration is so important in our ability to revitalize ourselves and to also make ourselves feel intrinsically supported, appreciated, and honored. These are all really important things. This one, sell yourself, not your soul. I thought I ate with that. But yeah, just don't trade your values for money. So for example, I had a certain 4-letter brand reach out to me to be a partner, and I said, up yours, I'd rather die. And that's because I, like, at the end of the day, I'm a little guy. I'm just a little guy, and I don't want to tie my name to anybody that's scamming people, using harmful beyond lifelong chemicals in their products, anyone working with fast production, anyone looking to harm the planet, exploit workers, build profits that are atrociously, like the margins are atrocious. Like, these are things that matter to me. I care that the earth is considered. I care that workers are paid a fair and living wage. I care that things are ethically sourced. And so at the end of the day, often people will do things because they need the money. But if you can avoid it, like, I try to. I think I do the best that I can to not make money off of those things that aren't aligning with the things I believe how things should operate. Especially with brand partnerships, it can be really difficult to navigate, especially like when we live in consumer culture. It can be really, really tough. Figure out where your line is, and like my 4-letter brand is far beyond my line. Just don't trade your values for money if you can. I'm not the person to say like definitives ever, but I can't even imagine situations where you don't have a choice, and I won't speak on that because it's not my experience. If that's something you've had to do, like, I don't judge. I understand that there are certain things we have to do to make rent and survive, and I won't hold that against you. But if you can help it, that's what I recommend. Let's talk about self-promotion, because I hate it and it makes me want to like, fuck, I hate it. And like, it can feel really embarrassing and awkward to be like, look at me and look at what I do and buy my stuff and pay my rent. And that is a really hard thing to navigate, and I relate entirely. But plug yourself often, as often as you can. Show the world you're you and what you're doing, and people follow. I'm always surprised by like how willing people are when you're like, hey, join my newsletter. And they join. I'm like, oh, what the hell? Thanks, guys. I thought I was just talking to nobody and no one's going to listen. And I don't know, plug yourself often, because people are listening and people do care. Maybe more than you think. And if they don't, keep trying. And then, of course, create for you. Never lose that. Even if you're doing a commission, I have in my contract that I can only create within my style. And then there's lines that I'm able to draw as an artist about what I'm comfortable and uncomfortable doing and creating. And that I have the right to basically say, like, no, I think that's going to ruin the piece. I think that's going to ruin the piece. And that is just like something that I put in my thingy, my thingamajig, my contract, making sure that like that's just something that I literally put in writing to make sure that I'm able to align myself, and people can't take that away from me. I also want, if you're going to monetize, consider where you're at. And again, we talked about like where you're at in life, but we're talking geography. What region are you in? What do you have to do to run a legitimate and legal business in your region? You need to know your tax laws, and you need to base your decisions off of, like, you know, where you're at as a business, knowing when to expand, knowing when not to expand, and knowing like things like zoning, knowing things like capital, insurance, if you need any permits, depends on what you're doing, I don't know. But just consider these things, consider where you're at, consider where you're operating, and those are important. Often people need business licenses, so do that, get a tax code, all these things. I'm from Canada, just for like context, so if I'm missing anything for your countries, my bad. But you know, just look into what you need to do to have to be an independent contractor, independent creator. I know in Canada it's like a independent artist, musician, performer, I think, tax code. So just like figure out where you are in that kind of tax system. And like I said, don't jump the gun. Take your time, stay patient, rest often, encourage joy first, do these things, and base your decisions again based on where you're at. So if you're ready to go full time and you feel ready to go full time, or you know, maintain this as a side hustle, just like really like take your time. You don't have to be there, A, and B, like I think just like try to enjoy the process as much as possible. And like, I'm not full-time, so I'm not the person to speak on going full-time. Just evaluate where you are in your life and what your goals are, and if you're ready and this is something that is safe and feasible for you. And like, I'm a little bit of a nervous Nelly with stuff like that, so I imagine that if/when the time comes that I would be willing to go full-time, I'm a little bit more of like a like I prefer to have my stable income in conjunction with anything that I make and do. If I do ever go full-time, I will have to evaluate where I'm at. Is this consistent? Is this stable enough? Am I prepared for any ebbs and flows? Do I know what I'm doing? But right now, it's not for me, not even close. So yeah, just don't jump the gun. Take your time, stay patient, work through it. I've been doing this for 4 years. Only this like painting stuff for like a little over a year, but social media, art in general, 5 years. And yeah, take your time, because rest often, because you don't know how long it's going to take, and rest is super, super important, and it's good for your heart, it's good for your soul. And on that note, goodbye.